Well, good morning, and thank you, Monica. And thanks, Vicky, for some blame. There's a lot of blame to go around, well, unfortunately, looking at the longer term here, there is some more of the same here for the next couple of days. But I think at least in the short term, no real solutions to the long term dryness. I guess that's one of the bottom lines of the take homes, and I'll talk more about that in a second. I do want to look, though, at the last week, which for most of the state, the vast majority of the state, was much warmer and unfortunately drier than normal. Yet another drier than normal week for many spots. There were a couple of exceptions, though. The southeastern lower peninsula late last week did pick up some significant rainfall, more than half an inch in many cases. And it was a wonderful type of rainfall, steady light rain that almost all soaked in, and very, very beneficial. But given deficits now, and we've talked about this, of several inches here over the last few months, again, much more is needed. There were also some significant rainfalls up in portions of the central upper peninsula at the same time. And in between that, we look at northern lower and central lower, and you see a sort of a shotgun type of pattern here. And that reflects what we've seen here over the last few days, and that is widely scattered, even isolated showers, a few thunder showers. We had one here in the Hazlet area last night, or a couple that went through, and it's wonderful to get the water if you're right under the right cloud, but unfortunately for most people, they're just outside, and we've seen incredible variability. I had at my house in Hazlet on Monday evening, I had an inch of rain. And I almost don't even want to admit it because of the situation we're in 20 minutes. Very heavy rain, 5 miles away on both sides, to the west and the east, it was dry. And that's exactly the kind of pattern you see here with these rainfall totals. Again, some people, some spots receive very, very significant rainfall totals, and sometimes very heavy, very in short time, but many others remain dry. And we're going to see more of the same here for the next couple of days before another pattern. We transition to another pattern here by the end of the weekend and early next week. Our degree days, given the much warmer than normal conditions here last week, our degree days, this reflects seasonal totals beginning on May 1. They have jumped, and now where we were just a week, 2 weeks ago, we were actually a little bit behind normal in terms of thermal time. Now we are ahead of normal across the entire state and across the entire region. That's not surprising when you have a week that's 6 to 10 degrees or more above normal. So we have jumped. A lot of that, of course, was the heat during the latter part of the work week and then into the weekend here last weekend. One thing about the long-term dryness, and just another perspective here, I updated some statistics I showed or shared earlier here in the season. These are rainfall totals from the beginning of the calendar year, January 1 through the end of May. So 5-month period, and it's looking back all the way back to 1893 and ranking those. And well, you can probably guess by the colors here, the greens are wetter than normal, the browns and tans are drier than normal, and you can see for much of the upper Midwest and certainly all of Michigan, we have been drier than normal, and actually much more than that. We're actually in most cases up in the top 10% driest January through May's on record. And here down in the southwest corner, this 126, given that there are 129 total years in this record, it means that in some cases in these extremes, it's the fourth driest January through May on record for that southwestern part of the state. So company we really don't want to be keeping right now. The historically, again, climatologically, quite unusual, the dryness that we're in, and it's taken place over a long period of time. So again, there is we're out there statistically, and as I've talked about before, in terms of the conditions right now, very likely the driest in at least 20 years that we see at this time of the year. Looking at the forecast map, and this is actually our current map, a couple things on here, and you're going to see maps for tomorrow and Saturday, and what you'll notice, they really don't change a whole lot. There's not a whole lot happening. We have a big ridge, upper air ridge right now across the upper Midwest. That is the source of the very, very warm temperatures, and it was for late last week. A couple of other features here. One, this sort of diffuse area of low pressure down here over the Ohio Valley. That is a huge slug of Gulf of Mexico origin moisture, basically a tropical air mass. That's what led to the, if you're especially in the southern part of the state, you might have noticed this. Last Sunday, we had that air mass come northward, again, literally out of the Gulf of Mexico, out of the tropics, and our dew point temperatures went from the upper 40s and low 50s all the way up to the upper 60s. Huge slug of moisture and water vapor, and that's why it became so muggy, especially in southern parts of the state. There is a frontal boundary here across the state that marks the northern edge of that tropical air mass, and it's been wavering back and forth here for the last couple days. And then finally, there's an area of low pressure up to our north and west. And that actually is the feature that may give the best chance for precipitation here over the next couple days. But as you see with the maps here, there's just not a whole lot happening, other than there are some showers and a few thunder showers that are breaking out with this low pressure system. And so today we will see those move into the upper peninsula, and especially western and central sections. That'll be probably the best chance for anything significant today in terms of precip. But given that things haven't changed over the last couple of days, we're going to see more of the same also in central and southern sections of the state this afternoon with another bubbling of convection. There's a lot of moisture there. Unfortunately, there's just not a weather feature like a front or area of low pressure to lift the air and cause a widespread area of precipitation. So we're stuck again with these widely scattered showers and thunder showers just sort of bubbling this convection. I would look for it to start once again by early afternoon, the activity, continue through the end of the afternoon and into the early evening. And then when sun goes down and things start to cool down a little bit, so will the convection will die off as well, just like we saw yesterday. I think today probably a little bit less in the way of coverage than we saw yesterday. And even a little bit less than that on Friday. Now, as we go through the maps here, this is tomorrow morning. Again, not a whole lot of change here to note. There will be, again, a chance of the convection tomorrow. Better chances up in the northern part of the state, up in the upper peninsula, closer to that next weather system. And then finally here on Saturday morning, you can see that we actually have a frontal boundary that approaches the state. And I think especially for northern parts of the state, that's going to be the best chance we see for precip, especially during the day on Saturday across the upper peninsula and into the northern lower peninsula. A little bit less as you go south from there. So again, there are chances for precip here, but in most cases, it does not look like it will be widespread. It's certainly not going to be enough to change the situation that we're in those areas that are so dry. In terms of how much precipitation, forecast here for the next week for most of the state, especially for the southern two-thirds, another drier than normal week. And it's almost a broken record. I don't even want to say it, but less than a quarter of an inch here. Most of the precipitation that you see here in this map, and you can see some half-inch totals are projected for the upper peninsula. Most of that is here over the next 1 or 2 days, actually into Saturday. We'll put it a third day. But after Saturday, after that frontal boundary moves through, we will then begin to see a change in the upper air. And while we have had ridging aloft here over the region for the last more than a week, we will see a trough develop here. And that's what I'm showing here. This is the projected upper air pattern by the middle of next week, by Wednesday. And this is the big ridge that's been over us with all the warmth and heat, especially in areas to our west. But look what happens here. Look what's formed over the eastern part of North America by the early part of next week, and it's a fairly significant trough. And as a result of that, these are projected temperatures at the same time. The reds are above normal temperatures. This is for Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, but you can see lots of blues. So again, look for a fairly significant change. The problem is, I think ultimately, yes, we will see significantly, noticeably cooler temperatures. It's not anything cold, but where we have high temperatures now in the 80s, in some cases the upper 80s for the next couple of days, we'll be back into the 70s, maybe even some 60s in the far north by the middle of next week. Low temperatures falling from the 60s primarily now back into the 50s by early next week. So noticeably cooler, less humid, but there's just with this northwesterly flow or northerly flow here, that is not a pattern we get a lot of precipitation with here in Michigan. And so I think the real message here, looking especially into that next first week and into the second week, is one of drier than normal conditions. And that's what the medium range forecast guidance, unfortunately, is suggesting. You can see a very similar jet stream pattern here indicated on the 6 to 10 day outlook. 8 to 14, very, very similar to this. They're almost identical. And that puts Michigan, as you can see here at the top, sort of in between this warmer than normal areas to our west and then cooler than normal with that trough to the east. I personally think we're going to be, at least for part of next week, we're going to be more into that cooler, normal to below normal would be my guess. But the real consistent message in the medium range forecast guidance, and again, this is not positive, it is that there just will be fewer weather systems, their lack of moisture for the systems to work with. And as a result of that, both these outlooks, 6 to 10 and 8 to 14, are strongly suggesting drier than normal conditions. And we'll probably call this for at least the next 1 to 2 weeks. The only saving grace is, given where we are, I think that it will be cooler. Our potential evapotranspiration rates will be lower. And by the way, late last week, we had some of the highest rates we typically ever see. Many areas on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we saw daily totals of potential evapotranspiration. This again follows up our irrigation discussion last week, on the order of 0.25 to 0.3 inches per day for that reference value. That's that grass covered level surface. That's as high as we see in Michigan climatologically. And again, strong sunshine, high temperature, warm temperatures or hot temperatures, you can even call it 90 degrees, low humidities and steady wind. All those things combine to basically accentuate or increase water demand or evaporative demand. It will be, though that said, it will definitely be less next week than it has been. So that's one, and cooler. So summarizing here quickly, more of the same rinse and repeat cycle here for today. More scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially central and southern portions. A little bit better coverage in the northern part of the state, closer to that weather system. But really for the next couple of days, there will be at least a chance for rain. Hopefully you'll be lucky enough to pick up one of those events, but there will be many areas that are missed or have relatively little. It will be drier by Sunday, and then as you just saw, a significant change beginning early next week with a cooler, less humid and dry type of weather pattern setting in for the bulk of next week. After Saturday, which is really for many portions of the state probably the highest or greatest probability of rainfall, we'll probably have to wait at least about a week to the end of the work week or maybe the next weekend. That's when it looks like we might see the next weather system approach from the west. So we'll be a while likely without significant rain. But also we will be cooler, so the water demands will be less. And medium range forecast guidance, as we just saw, is unfortunately suggesting more dry weather. So we're still looking for this change in a regime or the jet stream pattern across North America to something wetter. It doesn't look like it's certainly in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it'll be maybe beyond that. And I'll stop there with weather and move ahead and introduce next week's speaker. Our MSU forage specialist, Dr. Kim Cassada, will be with us next Thursday, and she's going to be talking about the forage supply for 2021. So with that, Monica, I'll hand it back to you and to Phil.